show you how to take this, and even this, and turn it into something that's healthy, delicious, and best of all, free. Let's do it. Hey everybody, and welcome to Cooking It Real. If you're new here, my name is Kathy, and I'm so glad you could join me in my kitchen today. Well, the day is finally here. I've heard people ask me about it, and I finally decided to share with you the contents of my scrap bag, and I'm going to show you how I make my veggie stock. Now, veggie stock is a great, first of all, I love making stocks. That is like almost my favorite thing to do. Why? I don't know. There's something about that simmering and just putting all ingredients in and coaxing the flavors and the goodness out of them that just absolutely makes me sing. If you have vegetarians or vegans in your home or in your sphere of foodie influence, vegetable stock is good to have on hand. I prefer to make my own, and I'll tell you why. Because A, I can get all the ingredients for vegetable stock for free. What am I using? I'm just using my scraps. When I'm making other meals or putting together salads and things like that, I just collect those scraps, I put them in a bag, put them in my freezer, and when I have enough, I get a pot of water and I start making my veggie stock. Let's talk about what kind of vegetables you want to use in your veggie stock and what kind of vegetables you don't want to use in your veggie stock. First of all, the best ones to use are what are normally called the aromatics, okay? Like in French cuisine and Italian cuisine, they have the mirepoix, and that is carrots and onions and celery, and those make an excellent base for stock. But you don't have to stop there. You can use things like peels from apples, apple peels, apple cores, little wrinkly tomatoes. You know, when you have a little basket of tomatoes, cherry tomatoes, and they start to get a little old and they're a little wrinkly and you really don't want to serve them in a salad or anything like that, put them in your scrap bag. They'll be ready to go. I also have tomatoes from my garden, and I cored them today. We don't have a ton of tomatoes, but at the end of this video, I'm going to show you how to make a very quick and easy fresh tomato and basil soup featuring my veggie stock. A very important part of my scrap bag is my carrot peels. You've seen me peel a ton of carrots when I was making the hummus and the veggie plate for a party, and I peeled, I don't know, like 5 pounds of carrots, and I saved all those peels, and they're all in here. And when I chop up an onion, you can use the brown parts. The outside skin is one of the best things to put in your veggie stock because it will give it a lovely color. It'll transfuse like a golden color into your stock. Also, the onion tops, like when you top an onion, let's see. I have an onion that I'm going to use. This is from our garden, and I'm going to use it when I make that tomato basil soup at the end. But I'll just show you. When I cut off the top like this, that's the perfect thing. That's a perfect thing to use in your, put in your scrap bag. Another cool thing to use is corn on the cob, corn cobs. If you have cooked corn and you take the corn off the cob, save those cobs. They add an indescribable sweetness to your veggie stock. We recently went to a farm stand and bought a bunch of corn and processed it for our freezer. And we took all the ends, you know, like how they'll have like a long stem on the end. We took those. Those are going to make great additions to our stock. Let's see, what else do I have in here? Oh, of course I have like all kinds of celery. Now this is just the end of the celery, like the inner core. And sometimes it gets a little, you know, wobbly looking. And sometimes the white isn't as flavorful as the green. So I put that in my scrap bag. Another thing, now these are all still frozen. These are parsley stems. All right, I pick off the parsley and I put the stems in the bag. They add a great flavor. What else do I have in here? Let's see. Anything else unusual? I have some red onion peels. Let's see. Uh, Apple cores also lend a great sweetness. I have pieces of mushroom. When you're fixing mushrooms, if you de-stem them, take the stems off, and you're not going to use them, normally you throw them away. Put them in your bag. They're perfect. They lend a richness and a depth of flavor to your veggie stock. And I absolutely love them. And sometimes I have mushrooms in this bag, but if I did not, I might throw in like a couple dried shiitake mushrooms just to give it that umami. The umami is like the fifth taste. They have like sweet, salty, sour, bitter, and umami. And that's the one that makes you go like, oh, so good. Anyway, let's talk about the things that you don't want to put in your veggie stock. You don't want to put anything that is too strong tasting. Like mostly I will say the brassicas and the cole crops. Basically that's like broccoli. You don't want to put like broccoli stems or cabbage leaves, cauliflower bits, things like that. Those things have like a very strong flavor. If you're making just like a soup for a particular, if you're making a stock for a particular soup, like say you're gonna make a broccoli soup, well certainly, make a stock with the broccoli stems, okay? Because that's gonna fit right in, it's gonna be perfect. In fact, I would just peel those stems and I'd chop them up and I'd add them to the soup like I would the florets. But anyway, you want the ones that have more of a sweetness. And by sweetness, now an apple core, apples are sweet, but tomatoes aren't sweet, but they have a sweetness. And onions aren't sweet, but they have a sweetness. I don't know how else to describe that, except that you don't want strong flavored things in your stock. Now, you don't want to add like a green bell pepper because that has, some people think that has like a super twangy taste. If you have a little bit of scrap of say red bell pepper, you might add that, but you don't want to add a whole lot, right? You want your basics to be onion, carrot, celery, and tomato, a little bit of mushroom, corn cobs if you have them, herbs and things. You don't want to add a ton of herbs to your stock, but the things like the parsley stems are perfectly fine in there because they have a sweetness. Now, basil's a little bit stronger, tarragon, or what else? What other herb am I thinking of? Like dill. Okay, we have a boatload of dill, but I would not add dill to this because it has too strong of a flavor. Now, sometimes I will add a little bit of garlic. Like if I have, when you're chopping garlic and you have that stem end, and it's just like a little mini bit, put it right in there. You don't want to overload your stock with garlic. You can always add garlic to the final dish that you're going to be using the stock in. And I will be sauteing onion and garlic, both from our garden, when I make that tomato soup at the end of this video. So don't go away. That being said, fennel. Fennel is kind of a strong flavored vegetable, but a little bit of fennel in this stock is absolutely delightful. Now, of course, if there are vegetables that you just absolutely don't like let's say, you say, oh, Kathy, I hate fresh corn. I would say, really? Seriously, you hate fresh corn? Well, to each his own. Don't add it. I don't think I want to put peels in my stock. Don't add it. It's totally fine. It's a very free-flowing thing. And as you do it more and more, you will discover the tastes that you want more of and that you want less of. So this is how easy it is. Watch this. I have in this pot, well, wait a second. I'm going to put you down so you can see. Okay, now I think you can see my pot. In this pot, I have 4 quarts of filtered water. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add the entire contents of this board and my bag into this pot. And we're just going to Put it on the stove, bring it up to a boil, and we're gonna simmer it until the vegetables are like hammered, because we wanna get every last bit of goodness out of them. Now, one thing I will say, before you put your scraps and things in your bag, you wanna make sure it's washed. Like if you're gonna peel a carrot, wash the carrot first and wash your celery first. You know, celery can be very dirty on the bottoms, and that way you can use all the parts you cut off and just put them right in the bag, and you don't have to worry about having dirt that you don't want to worry about dirt. All right, so let's just get this going. Peels, peels, peels galore. All right, I think I got everybody into the pool. Yeah, see, here's like my mushroom stems, and what else? My onion bottoms, all kinds of good things. Oh my gosh. All right, let's get this to the stove and we'll get it working. There we go. I'm gonna turn this on high. We're gonna bring it up to a boil, and then we are going to, let's see. Whoop. Everybody back in, get in there. We're gonna bring it up to a boil, reduce it to a simmer, and just let it go for a little while. All right. And about a gallon Ziploc of scraps does well with about 4 quarts of water. As you can see, this is pretty full. Of course, it's gonna, as it cooks, it's gonna soften and shrink down. But that's what we're gonna do to get started. Excellent. Now, I don't add any seasoning to this, no salt, no pepper, nothing like that. This is just gonna be the plain veggie stock. Our trimmings have come off the heat. They're cooled down a little bit. They're still pretty steamy. Just gonna move it up here and show you what I do next. But first I wanna show you, you see these adorable pot holders? Pot holder set that my sister Teresa gifted me for my birthday. It came with some towels that coordinate, and it was like, yay! I love kitchen stuff. I love kitchen linens, and she certainly knows how to put a smile on my face. Thank you, Tree. Love you. All right, let's talk about what we do next. First thing we need to do is dispose of all of these veggie scraps that have given up all that they had. They nourished us the first time when we used them in a recipe, and now they're giving us everything else they have to give. But that is not actually the end of the story. Because this is all vegetable and fruit scraps that were just cooked in plain water, no salt, no seasonings, no nothing like that, no oils or fats of any kind, this can go right on your compost pile. It can go to feed your worms. Or, you can just put it in the trash. It has given its all, and I think it is a monumental blessing to have so much things like this in our world where we can, use it up, use it all, appreciate what these plants have done for us, how they, grew and to meet our needs. And isn't that what it's all about, right? All right, so this is just my first pass with my big strainer and all this stuff. It can't go out into the compost, and we're not gonna put it in the worm bin until it's completely cool. All right, totally cool. Cooler than cool. All right, so, oh, I need one more tool. All right, you can go over here. I gotta get my other tool, hang on. Oh yeah, here she is, my Chinese ladle. I got this Christmas 1976 with my wok, and I love this thing. I've had it ever since. So how many years is that? That's too much math for me. I'm not even going to think about it. Anyway, it is the perfect thing for me when I'm making soups and stocks. And this is what we're going to do next. I'm going to put some of this stock right into the containers that I'm going to put in my freezer. I'm going to leave one out, and I'm going to use, I think I need about 2 cups or a little bit more or less for my tomato basil soup that I'm going to show you in just a bit. But this is another favorite tool of mine. This is my fine mesh strainer. I got this at Williams-Sonoma many moons ago, and I use it constantly. All right, so what I like to do is I just dip in and strain it out. There's not going to be a whole lot of stuff to strain because there's no seasoning in there. There's no, pepper flakes or bits of things. Now, this stock, although it's so beautiful, look at the color. I mean, doesn't that almost look like beef stock? But there is not an animal bit in there. It is all veg all day. And just think how good this is for you. You know what I mean? I mean, anytime that a recipe might call for chicken stock or it's like you can use water or chicken stock. Well, use veggie stock. Just think about what you're getting, and what you're not having to get, There's no fat in this. It is absolutely perfect. Look at that color. I mean, is that not the most gorgeous thing? Oh, my husband was here. He'd say, it looks like my copper line beer that I brew. I was like, yeah, it kind of does. It's a beautiful thing. All right, and so far, look, we only get a little bit of schmutz. Can you see that? On our strainer. Nothing to worry about. If there was more than that, or like when you're straining other kinds of things, I would take this over to the sink and rinse it off so I could keep on going. Oh, if you could smell it too. You can definitely smell the onion. Okay, it has that aromatic richness, but then there's the subtle, I don't know whether it's the mushrooms or the tomatoes that is giving it, it's got to be the mushrooms, that's giving it not only that color, but that beautiful umami. Oh, mercy me, it's so good. All right, now I am going to put these in the freezer and see, this is what I'm getting. I'm getting like tomato seeds now because, some of the little tomatoes and whatnot had some seeds in it. No big a deal. All right. Sit. I'm going to put these aside to cool. Get them ready for the freezer. And then I have just enough, I think, for my recipe. I'm going to measure it into a measuring cup. All right, so I need 2 cups. So I rinsed off my strainer. And now I'm gonna, that's my oven. Time to bake my cheddar jalapeno sourdough. Yeah, baby. That's gonna go so good with this soup. Oh. It's 2 separate videos though. I will link each one with each one, if that makes any sense. On this veggie stock and tomato basil soup, I will link the jalapeno cheddar sourdough, and on the jalapeno cheddar sourdough, I will link this veggie stock. All right, that's 2 cups. Got a little more in here. I'm just gonna give myself a little more. You can never have too much soup. That's the way I feel about it. And I'm gonna put this off to the side. I'm gonna put my bread in, and then we're gonna start to make the soup. get the herbs ready for this soup. Tomato, basil. I guess basil would be star of the show. I picked this basil from our garden and some fresh oregano too, before the torrential rains that just let up. So what we're going to do is we're going to pick the leaves off, and we're going to chop it up real nice, although it doesn't have to be too nice because it's going to be blended up like everything else. So, but the basil is starting to really come on now. I think I've said before that we had a really cool spring, not typical for this part of the world, and things got off to a very slow start. Now this is if you have fresh oregano, or say it's thyme is on a similar type of stem. The way to get the leaves off is to just, you grab a hold of a blank spot and you just pull down. Boom, there it goes. You get your little side things, pull them off, and then you go to the top and just like boom, pull it down, and there you go. And then you can get a little fiddly if you want to. If you don't have fresh herbs, this will be, well, it may suffer a little not having fresh basil, but you could definitely use dried basil and definitely dried oregano. I think more people grow basil than oregano. Is that a thing? I'm not sure. So don't quote me. Where's my knife? Found it. Okay. The rain has started back up. Before I turned everything back on to start doing this soup, and the rain had stopped, I went out to see if I could see a rainbow, because there's like a certain time of day here when the weather seems always to come from west to east, and sometimes right after the rain, if you see the sun peek out, it's like I can run out and then I know that right over Todd and Leslie's house there's going to be a rainbow, and I just love seeing that every time. Never get tired of a rainbow. Now we're ready. We have all the ingredients. We can start our soup. The heat is on medium-high. I'm going to add a nice drizzle of olive oil, or the oil of your choice. As soon as that warms up, we're going to put in our aromatics, onions and garlic. That looks about right. I'm just going to put them both in at once. I'm not going to cook them all the way that I normally might, because they are going to be blended up. But I do want to get, them at least translucent, maybe a tiny bit of color. We'll just have to see. Gonna add a little salt, a little pepper, smells good. I think onion and garlic sauteing is like one of the most encouraging and anticipatory aromas there are. You smell that, you know something good is coming up. Let it sit on the bottom without touching it for a little bit. Give it a chance to have extended contact with the bottom of the pan. Get a little caramelization going, not a ton. You can sort of see it. I don't know if you can see it. I can definitely see it. And more than that, I can smell it. Oh, it smells so good. As soon as I put the tomatoes in, which is the next thing, the temperature is going to go way down, and the onions and garlic are basically going to stop cooking. And so when it comes back up with the tomatoes and whatnot in it, it will be, it will simmer rather than saute. So if any kind of color or taste you want to get on it now. Or get it on now. Get on it. I don't know. Anyway, I'm liking that. It's kind of light, but I think I'm going to go with that. And here come my tomatoes. These are all my garden tomatoes. A couple of little cherries. Woo! That's wang, 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 wang. That's 4 good cups of tomatoes. I'm going to saute them for just like a minute or two, and then I'm going to add my backup can of tomatoes because I didn't have enough tomatoes to go with the recipe. So I'm going to add this can and the juice in just a minute because those tomatoes are pretty much already cooked. All right, I'm going to add my can of diced tomatoes. Woo! Boom, boom, boom. I'm going to use my 2 cups of stock to rinse out the can. Now these diced tomatoes have added salt. Let's see how much. 180 milligrams for 3.5 servings. So that's a fair amount of salt. So I probably won't add any more salt, but I will add some more pepper. I know everyone has heard that Will and I are trying to cut back on our salt. Anyway, and here goes the rest of the stock, veggie stock. We're going to give it a good stir. And then we're just going to let this simmer until everything is like broken down and done. All right, I'm going to put a lid on it. Ooh, I found a little straggler. Look at that. Get in there. All right, and we'll be back. Egads, I almost forgot that the recipe, and this recipe is from the Simple Veganista. I love her on Facebook and Instagram. I'm supposed to put the herbs in now too. So I have my basil and my oregano, and it gives me another chance to use my cute as a button pot holder from Teresa. All right, there we go. Duchess, you don't want to go out, it's pouring. All right, we're gonna give that a stir. Now we're gonna let it simmer on down until it's ready. All right, see you in a bit. Normally, I would do this over by the stove, but my bread is in this carryover phase and it's just too freaking hot over there. Anyway, can you see this? Can you? Oh, look at that. Gorgeous. What we're gonna do is, it's really hot. We're gonna be very careful. We're gonna put in our immersion blender and just give it a whiz. And you know, the cool thing about this is you can make it to the chunkiness or smoothness that you desire. That's kind of chunky still, but it's almost like a really, really, really wet salsa. So I'm just going to put this aside and get a little taste and see what we think. So I got a tasting spoon. I'm just going to put, oh, see, I can see there's still some tomato peels, so I'm definitely going to blend that up some more. I'm going to let this cool while I blend up some more, and then we'll give it a taste. See that chunky bits? That's like all kinds of peels stuck in there. Just shake them off. You know, fiber is good. If you're sensitive to fiber, keep on blending. Look at how it's fogging up my glasses. Can you see that? Oh. Now, one of the advantages to using immersion blender as opposed to say a Vitamix or a regular blender is that when you put hot liquids in a blender and then you just turn that thing on with the lid on, it's gonna, the steam is gonna want to escape, and it could be very dangerous, and it could cause a serious burn issue. So the thing about this is the pot is open, the steam is escaping, and you know, it just takes a little bit longer. Can you see me now? Oh, that's good. That's so fresh. Okay, wait. It needs something. All right, I know what it needs. It needs two things. It needs a little bit of salt, and it needs some sugar. And I'll tell you why sugar. There's no sugar in this recipe, but because my tomatoes were not dead ripe, as they say, they didn't have all the sweetness that this soup deserves. All right, so I'm not gonna add a lot because, you know, I don't want it to be a sweet soup, but it does need a little bit. All right, hang on. All right, for salt, I'm gonna add about less than a half a teaspoon. I think that'll definitely do it. For sugar, I'm gonna add like a decent teaspoon. Okay, look at this cute ass spoon. I got this at a yard sale. Love it to death. Anyway, I'm gonna give this a stir. I'm gonna give it one more taste. And you know what? I do not mind, like this, see this little piece of tomato skin? I don't mind that at all. If that's something that you don't want, you know, you can take this and put it through a strainer. Not the fine mesh strainer like I did, that would take you forever, but you know, just a regular, like a fine mesh strainer, like not a spaghetti strainer so much, but something a little bit finer, like a mesh strainer. And get rid of all that. Yep, that's it. Voila! Oh my gosh, that is perfect. How did I do that? First time, I love it. If you're not vegan, or if you are vegetarian, ovo, lacto, or just lacto or whatever, and you want to add some cheese, oh, I have some feta here that I think will go amazing. Now, you could also use some cashew cream. My daughter-in-law Melanie and I did a video about that. I'm going to see if I can't link that. Oh, look at this. Boing, boing, boing. Now, you have a complete meal because you just added that cheese. That's your protein. And look at these sweet, adorable little basil leaves that I have to add on to that. Look at that. How cute. Oh my word. This is like the cutest thing ever. We've adjusted the seasoning a little bit, and now it's time to taste. I can't wait. And speaking of things I can't wait for, I can't wait to get together with you again in the next video. If you have enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up. And if you haven't already, consider subscribing. I think we can get along great together. So let's try our tomato basil soup made with our veggie scrap stock. Yeah, I needed just that little bit of salt, just that little bit of sugar. Oh, let me try it with some feta. Oh, creamy and delicious. You know, you could add like sour cream, creme fraiche, even just heavy cream, whatever, yogurt, whatever you like to this. But oh my goodness, that feta is giving it a creaminess. I don't know if you can see it or not, but Oh. This is gonna be great. It's gonna be even better when my bread is finished and I can have a piece of cheddar jalapeno to dunk in the soup. Perfection. Anyway, thank you so much for joining me. I really enjoy interacting with each and every one of you. I hope you had a great time today, and I look forward to seeing you again next time on Cooking It Real. Bye, everybody.